So Mark, how do you see the role of the consortium in the industry?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity to deliver. I think the danger is if we don't have a consortium and we don't have that feed coming in, whether it's coming in from individuals, whether it's coming in from companies, entrepreneurs, education, government, we face the danger that it comes from a technology company that's focused on selling something where they've already decided what the end result is. They're saying blockchain is going to do this for that particular business sector and that particular need, and for me it may not address what we really want and what the industry really wants. And I think the consortium it is a great place to define the opportunities, prioritize the opportunities, and then develop the use cases and the return on investment. And that return on investment doesn't need to be monetary, although it'd be great if it was. But how about it's monetary in this side, but at the same time, not only does it improve efficiency, but it improves sustainability. It improves corporate social responsibility. It actually delivers on these, not just tick boxes, but delivers. I think and the two for me are just perfect. So this is a great opportunity to get those going.
So how do you see the working parties helping moving that forward?
Well, for me, if we have a fashion working party, well, first of all, let's step back a second. I think the blockchain consortium, blockchain as a potential solution fits all industries. And I talked about this earlier, and I think it fits all industries. But then we need to focus in and say, okay, what are the needs for this particular industry and its sector and its supply chain? And then narrow down on the use cases. Now the use cases need then to be prioritized by the consortium, voting, not just something that's going to serve a small proportion of the membership, but across the membership. So let's vote on it, let's prioritize, and then let's start to deliver, use cases, more than use cases, and then develop solutions and trial them, play with them, and prove them before we go into the market with the answers.
That's interesting. And do you see blockchain going further back in the production process, not simply in terms of downstream on the supply chain?
Very much so. Very much so. People talk about, at the moment, when people are talking about blockchain, they, in most cases, they're referring to the product, right? So whether it's about the authenticity of this product or it's transparency in the supply chain, I think we'll need to look much deeper on that. I think we need to go into materials. So because for me, a material is a product, yeah? Whether it's a knitted material, whether it's a woven material, whether it's a yarn, whether it's dye, these components that make up this jacket are all part, for me, of the blockchain opportunity. We can define, again, link beyond blockchain to others, so artificial intelligence, the IoT, so machines with sensors, with data linked to blockchain, provide information about the product, its authenticity, its provenance, and then we can start to move it across the supply chain, through the supply chain, so we get visibility of what's going on, when, how, why, but also when those products merge together to become my jacket. And then from there, we can track through the smart logistics, and from there to the consumer, and from the consumer to the experience, and even beyond. Let's think of end of life of this particular product. product. It's only the other day that I was talking to my wife about, you know, the issues with mixed fibres. You know, with cotton and polyesters mixed, and how do you separate them to then use this in a better way, in a more sustainable way and so on. So it's deeper than just the product.
So from what you're saying, it'll be important that we ensure the membership of the working parties are not simply the retail end and the consumer end of the spectrum, but actually right back through the manufacturing supply chain that led to that product in the store.
Absolutely. And I think there are around the world a few non-profit organisations that actually have membership that go all the way back. So they're made up of retailers, they're made up of brands, but they're made up of tanneries, they're made up of factories, they're made up of component suppliers and so on. And I think we should be looking at the entire supply chain, yes.
And maybe one route to achieve that would be to draw in some associations that might represent many of those organisations.
Yes, and that's why I mentioned the non-profit ones, because again, they're not there. It's not about, but how much is it worth to us? This is not about how much it's worth to us. It's about how can we fix things? How can we get standards going? How can we set the scene and use blockchain for the good rather than for, you know, its association with cryptocurrency and its perceived negative things. Let's shine the light on the good things and get it moving.
That's interesting. So I agree with your position there, but perhaps there's actually a role for blockchain in enabling sustainability and enabling the CSR reporting requirement, not simply in optimizing the supply chain.
Being in the industry for the last 44 years this year, I can tell you, and I'm aware of it, you know, that audits and inspections were being done in the hotels over a drink and not in the factory. There was, you know, payments being made for a signature, for a certificate that got things moving. Well, the only way we can break that down is to digitize that process, digitize the metadata, use the GPS information so we know audit was done in that factory, in that location, within that 1 square meter if necessary. So whether you like or not, that was the reality. I hope it's not today, although there's likely to be some of that still left. This helps to take that out.
Building that level of trust might well involve more than just blockchain. That's part of an enabling platform.
Yeah.
And perhaps there's many other bits of technology, some emerging technologies that
come
together.
Yeah, and that's why in the answer to the last question I said industrial IoT is part of it. Blockchain as a shared ledger, but also the different chips and devices, whether it's RFID, whether it's NFC, near frequency chips that we have in our passports, whether it's QR codes that help to tell the story, whether it's in fashion, whether it's that cutting machine or that knitting machine. For me, they all have shared data. What blockchain does for me is it gathers certain elements of that data that make sense to do so, because we don't want to get right down to the microscopic data that doesn't add value. We want to stay reasonably high. So I would say, how can we eliminate redundancy, paperwork and things like that, and automate that? But then how do we utilize the data feeds from IoT and the larger hardware that's been computerized for many years? You know, like numerically controlled cutting systems and weaving machines and so on.
But ultimately you're seeing a sort of quality of the trust right back through that creation process.
Ultimately, yes. And I think that should be the goal. It's not just about paperwork. For me, it's not just about the product, but it's about the materials and components and packaging and labeling and everything that comes together as a recipe that makes up that finished product. And it's all the way through that supply chain that's important.